to take a look at coding sequences here with our LEDs and our buzzer. And so to do this, I want to focus here on our breadboard a little bit better, because one thing we haven't explored yet are these power rails. We've talked about them. So while we know that these rows numbered 1, well in my case, through 60 some, these 5 are all connected with a metallic piece and they go horizontal. So, you know, F, G, H, I, J all have one metallic strip underneath it. So these can all be compatible, but they're not compatible going in the column or up and down format. The power rails are. So if I were to plug in a power source to the plus side, you know, from say like a 5 volt from the Raspberry Pi to the positive, all of these going all the way down all have that positive charge. And the same thing with the negative going all the way down. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove this buzzer one that we just completed in the previous step. And I'm actually going to bring back our project we did on day 6, programming LED lights. And if you remember, I don't have all these plugged in, but we had to have 3 separate ground wires right here. And we plugged those into 3 different ground ports on the Raspberry Pi and the GPIO pins as we go through. As you start to do more expansive building and programming, you might have several different projects going on where you might need several grounds. A project like this, we only need 1 ground GPIO pin to power all of these. So what I want to do here is I'm actually going to remove all our ground wires. Okay. Now I'm going to keep our positive because we need these separate so we can program these individually to do different things. But if we want them to all be on the same circuit, we could actually plug all these into the positive side. But I want to have some uniqueness in these builds. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to use a male-to-male wire. And I'm going to use blue to represent black. Okay. And what will happen here then is I'm going to plug in my LEDs now to the negative terminal or the power rail. So I can just go from here right over to this negative power terminal. And I'm going to do that for all 3 of my lights. And right now, it may not feel like this is really important to learn, but as you build more complicated projects, you're going to find out how important and helpful this is. So what I've got here now is I've got these 3 ground wires all plugged in on the negative, the ground of the LED, over to this power terminal of all the negative. Then what I'm going to do then is I'm going to take one of our male-female connector wires, and I'm going to plug one, okay, the male side into this negative or the ground power terminal. And then I only need to plug this in once, so I'm going to go to that one we've been using on the right column, the 3rd one down, a ground pin. That's now, this wire here, this black one, is now going to provide that circuit feed for all 3 LEDs. And that's going to be really helpful. So it's just another way to kind of see the power of what this could be. Now, what I want to do here, just so it makes sense, is I could go through here now and I could add my buzzer. And I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to add him, let's see, 27 to 30. And I'm going to have to do 1 more of these, like I've just done, so it has power as well. And this is a little bit different from the Raspberry Pi page, but not terrible. I'm just going to keep 3 lights as we go through this here. So I'm going to go ahead and add my ground there. There we go. Oh, I actually want that down here. That's the negative side. Okay, so now we got to go through now and get all our LEDs plugged into a GPIO pin over here, as well as our buzzer, so that we can program them individually. And now we can start to do some really cool coding concepts as we go through that. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. This is also helpful to do this as well. This is where paper and pencil is so handy. And what I'm going to do is I plug in my LEDs and my buzzer into the GPIO pins, I'm going to make a note on this board, on this paper, so that when I go to program, I don't have to keep staring at the little Raspberry Pi and trying to figure out what did I plug it into. And so I just like to draw the diagrams. And I'll show you here in just a second. That looks like this. So I can see on my breadboard, this now is light 1, 2, 3, and then the buzzer. And then as I plug them in, I will make a note of what GPIO pin that they're actually plugged into. So let's go ahead and do that now. You can follow the pins that are on the project page or mine, or use your own GPIO pins. You start to figure out your flavor of what works well for your organization. So what I have here is I already have this wire for our LEDs. These are already plugged in. I just got to get them into the GPIO pins. So I know that there's one right underneath the ground. So this is 14. So my top light is 14. Okay, and then I know my second light can actually be 15. And my third light can go right there to, let's see, 1, 2, can be 18. I can get it plugged in there. That's 18. Then I just need one more wire for my buzzer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I know it's 27 on the breadboard. I know after 18 there goes a ground, and then I've got 23, so the buzzer will be 23. Okay, so now I've got my layout here. Now let's go ahead and jump over to the scratch code and write some code and see if we can get all of these interacting here. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do, this is my buzzer demo code. I'm going to go back to our 3 LED light code that we did for the challenge from day 6. And so I'm going to load from my computer. I got my 3 LED circuit code. I'm going to go ahead and open that. Go ahead and replace that. I'm actually, just so I don't confuse that, I'm going to go ahead and save this now. I'm going to save this. And I'm going to call it 3 LED circuit plus buzzer. And I already have a Raspberry Pi folder in my documents. I'm going to program it right in there. Okay, so now I have to go back and I got to take a look at this. I'm missing some things, but we're going to go ahead and tweak this a little bit. All right, so I'm going to apply a little bit of what we learned before. Okay, so what I have here, this was, if you remember last time, just turned them all on, all off. And I want to tweak this now a little bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag over this when green arrow is clicked. And then I'm going to put a forever loop in here. And in that forever loop, I'm going to run things similar to this code. So if I go to my Raspberry Pi Simple Electronics one, where we did the LED lights, we can go ahead and turn an LED on, just like you kind of see here. Now, eventually I'm going to delete all this, but I just wanted to bring this up as a reference to what we did on day 6. All right, and we're going to do this one here, and I need to change this GPIO pin. So I'm going to pick this. This is 14. Remember, for my wiring, it's why it's always handy to write those things down. And we're going to turn that on, and then we can do a wait block. And we're going to go ahead and do what we did with the buzzer when we were trying to make some music here. So I'm going to go to this operator, and we're going to pick random. Okay, and then I'm just going to put this in here from 0.2, and I'm actually going to expand this to 2 seconds. I think the project calls for 1, but I like 2 seconds. And we're going to wait. And then we will turn the LED off after that. So remember, that's going to wait. It's going to keep it on. And then we're going to turn pin 14 off. And then we can do the same exact thing. All right, so if I click this and we duplicate these 3 blocks, what is important here now is, one, we change the GPIO pin. So I have 15 here. This is the second light. And this is the second. This is number 15. And I want to change these variables. This one, there's kind of like a different change to the flickering. So I'm going to make this one a little bit faster. So I'm changing that pick random before it turns that off. And then I have a third light, so I'm going to duplicate this one more time because I have 3 lights in there. And that third light is pin 18, so I'll go ahead and change that. There it is. And there's 18. And again, I'm going to then change this guy. Let's see, I got 0.2, I got 0.5. Let's go 0.3. And let's go to 1.75. We can always adjust those later as we go in there. The last thing we want to do is write the music for our buzzer. Now, I could add that in here with this code altogether, or I could change it as well. And so what I could do here then is I might actually just do this. I'm going to right click. And I'm going to duplicate all this code. Now I don't have a light here. I have a buzzer. So I'm going to go to this Raspberry GPIO pin. And we're going to then just change these out. Okay, so what I just need to do here is separate and then we're going to set this here. And our GPIO pin was 23, so I'm going to change that to 23. And we're going to make sure we move the second one to low or off. And then I can just duplicate this. And I'm going to have this thing kind of follow the similar pattern. So I know we had 0.5. We had 0.5, and then our second one was 1.25. Okay, and we'll duplicate that one more time. And I'm doing it this way just so you can kind of see how we can have very similar code, but different purposes. And because they're both going to start on the green flag, we will actually have, this will all work then when we hit start, like it'll all trigger at the same time. So now we've got that. We've got our LEDs on and we've got our buzzer on. And so we can go ahead now and test this. And let's see what this looks like. I'm going to go ahead and switch the screen here so you can see it better. All right, so let's go ahead and run this code here. I'm going to see what we've got. I'm going to hit start here. You can kind of see they're moving kind of like just randomly one at a time through this. My buzzer's going, but it's real faint. It's probably really hard to hear. So we've got that going, which is pretty sweet. All right, so now what we want to do in the next video is we will write some code where we will actually have the GPIO pin, the buzzer, when that's activated, turn lights on. So we'll do that next year in this one. But play around with this and kind of have some fun. If you create anything cool, be sure to share it over in the Slack channel. And until the next episode, my friends, remember, stay awesome. Peace.